For most people, the idea of being alone is terrifying. They equate solitude with loneliness, emptiness, or even sadness. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. If you know how to be alone, you have mastered the most fundamental relationship, your relationship with yourself. In today's world, people are constantly seeking distractions. Why? Because when they sit alone, they don't like the company they are in. But if you can sit alone joyfully, that means you have discovered something profound within yourself. Power does not come from external validation, it does not come from being surrounded by crowds or from endless activity. True power comes from knowing that your well-being is not dependent on anything or anyone outside of you. When you can be alone and still be absolutely content, you have found a source of power that is unshakable. Great things happen in solitude. If you look at the most powerful minds in history, whether sages, scientists or artists, they all had periods of deep aloneness. Because in silence and solitude, clarity arises. In deep solitude, creativity flourishes. The problem is not that people are alone, the problem is they don't know how to be alone. If you feel restless when alone, it is because you are uncomfortable with yourself. But this discomfort is a gift. It is showing you that something within needs to be addressed. If you use your alone time wisely, it becomes an opportunity for growth, for reflection and for transformation. When you are alone, there is no one to impress, no roles to play, no masks to wear. You are simply with yourself. If you can make this experience beautiful, then whether you are with people or without, you remain untouched by external situations. Aloneness is not weakness, it is not isolation. It is a state where you no longer crave external approval. It is a space where you find your own depth, your own strength and your own wisdom. When you embrace aloneness, you realize that you were never really alone. Life itself is with you. So if you ever feel alone, do not run from it, sit with it, experience it fully. If you can be truly at peace in your own company, then the world cannot shake you. That is the power of being alone. Being alone and feeling lonely are two entirely different experiences, yet people often confuse them. Loneliness is a state of discomfort, a longing for companionship, or a sense of disconnection from others. It arises when you feel isolated, even when surrounded by people. On the other hand, being alone is simply the state of being with yourself, without external company. It is a physical condition, not an emotional struggle. If you can embrace your own presence, being alone can transform into a deeply enriching experience rather than a painful one. Society conditions us to believe that constant interaction and socialization are necessary for happiness. We are taught from childhood that being surrounded by people is a sign of success and solitude is something to be avoided. But this is an illusion. If a person cannot be happy alone, they will also struggle to find happiness in the company of others. True fulfillment does not come from endless social engagements or external relationships, but from a deep and harmonious relationship with oneself. Being alone provides an opportunity for self-exploration. When distractions are removed, you can listen to your own thoughts, understand your emotions and reflect on your true desires. Many people live their lives based on expectations imposed by others, never taking the time to ask themselves, what do I truly want? When you embrace solitude, you give yourself space to understand your mind and heart without external noise influencing your decisions. This self-awareness leads to clarity, confidence and a stronger sense of direction in life. In solitude, you also develop emotional independence. Many people rely on others to validate their worth, provide them with happiness or keep them entertained. This dependency can make a person feel helpless when they are alone. But when you learn to enjoy your own company, you no longer seek fulfillment from external sources. You become the master of your own emotions, unaffected by the presence or absence of people around you. This independence is a form of personal power that allows you to move through life with grace and inner strength. The ability to be alone without feeling lonely is a mark of inner stability. When you enjoy your own presence, aloneness becomes a source of peace rather than distress. It is in this state that creativity flourishes, Instead of seeking constant engagement, you learn to cherish moments of solitude, using them for introspection and renewal. Those who are comfortable with being alone find that they are never truly lonely, because they have discovered that their own presence is enough. People fear solitude because they are uncomfortable with themselves. For many, the idea of solitude is unsettling. They seek constant engagement, filling their time with conversations, entertainment and endless distractions. But why is it so difficult for people to be alone? The real reason is not external, it is internal. People fear solitude because in the absence of distractions, they are left face to face with themselves. And for many, that is an uncomfortable experience. They have spent so much time escaping their thoughts that when silence surrounds them, they do not know how to handle it. From childhood, we are conditioned to believe that being alone is undesirable. We are taught to socialize, to engage, to always be doing something rather than simply being. As a result, most people never truly get to know themselves. When left alone, they suddenly hear the noise of their own mind, the unresolved emotions, the unaddressed fears, the inner conflicts that they have ignored for so long. Instead of confronting these things, they run from solitude, seeking external stimulation to drown out their own thoughts. However, discomfort in solitude is not a problem, it is a revelation. It shows you the parts of yourself that need attention. If sitting alone makes you restless, anxious or uneasy, that is a sign that something within needs healing. Many people use relationships, social media or work as an escape from their own inner world. But no matter how much they run, the discomfort remains lurking beneath the surface. Instead of avoiding it, one must have the courage to sit with it, observe it and understand it. Only then does true transformation begin. When you learn to be comfortable with yourself, solitude no longer feels like emptiness, it becomes a space for growth. It allows you to observe your thoughts without judgment, to face your fears without panic, and to embrace yourself without distraction. The greatest wisdom, creativity, and self-awareness emerge from moments of deep solitude. Those who master the art of being alone find that they are no longer controlled by their fears or dependent on external validation. They become their own source of strength. The fear of solitude is, at its core, the fear of facing oneself. But once you overcome this fear, you unlock a new level of personal freedom. You are no longer afraid of silence, no longer restless when alone. Instead, you find peace in your own presence. The journey from fearing solitude to embracing it is not always easy, but it is one of the most powerful transformations a person can undergo. In solitude, you do not lose yourself, you finally meet yourself. Most people spend their life seeking approval from others. They want to be liked, accepted and praised. Their sense of worth depends on the opinions of friends, family, colleagues or even strangers on social media. But this is a fragile way to live. If your happiness and confidence are dependent on external validation, then your state of mind is constantly at the mercy of other people's thoughts. True power, however, does not come from being accepted by others. It comes from being self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency means that your sense of worth is not tied to anyone or anything outside of you. It means you are no longer desperate for recognition, nor do you live in fear of criticism. When you are truly self-sufficient, praise does not inflate your ego and insults do not break you. You remain steady because your confidence comes from within. This inner strength makes you unshakable, no matter what the world says or does. When people seek constant validation, they unknowingly give away their power. They adjust their behavior, opinions, and even dreams to fit the expectations of others. They become trapped in an endless cycle of approval seeking, afraid to be themselves. But the moment you stop looking outside for validation and turn inward, you reclaim your power. You no longer need permission to be who you are. You no longer need applause to feel worthy. You become free. The greatest individuals in history, whether philosophers, spiritual seekers, scientists or artists, did not wait for the world's approval. They stood by their truth even when others misunderstood them. They did not let criticism weaken them or praise distract them. They found strength in their self-sufficiency, and that is what made them powerful. Their sense of purpose was not dependent on public opinion, but on an unshakable inner knowing. To cultivate self-sufficiency, one must first learn to be alone. When you can sit by yourself without feeling restless, when you no longer crave external validation, you begin to realize something profound. Everything you need is already within you. From this realization, true power arises. A person who is self-sufficient does not live for approval or fear rejection. They walk their path with clarity, confidence and freedom, and that is the greatest power of all. Silence and solitude bring clarity and creativity. In a world filled with noise and distractions, silence has become rare and solitude even rarer. People are constantly engaged, talking, scrolling, working or entertaining themselves without ever pausing to simply be. But it is in silence and solitude that the mind finds clarity. When the external noise fades, the inner voice becomes clear. When there are no distractions, thoughts become organized and deeper understanding emerges. This is why the greatest thinkers, artists and visionaries throughout history have sought solitude, not as isolation, but as a space for insight and creation. Clarity does not come from endless activity. It comes from stillness. When the mind is always reacting to the outside world, it has no space to process, reflect or understand. But when you sit in silence, without distractions, your thoughts settle like dust in still water. What once seemed confusing becomes simple. What once felt overwhelming now appears manageable. Solitude allows you to observe your own mind without interference, helping you see what is truly important and what is merely noise. Creativity also flourishes in solitude. When you are alone, your imagination has room to expand. Great works of art, profound philosophies and groundbreaking discoveries are often born in moments of deep solitude. Without the constant influence of others' opinions and expectations, the mind is free to explore new ideas. Many of history's greatest minds, Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein, valued solitude as a means to tap into their creative genius. Solitude also deepens self-awareness. In silence, you can hear your own thoughts without interference. You begin to understand your fears, desires and aspirations with greater clarity. When you are always surrounded by people or immersed in distractions, your thoughts are shaped by external influences. But when you step away from the noise, you start to see what truly matters to you, not what the world has conditioned you to believe. This clarity gives you direction and purpose, helping you make decisions that align with your true self. Many people fear silence because they are not used to it. They feel uneasy when left alone with their thoughts. But this discomfort is an invitation, a sign that something within needs attention. If you embrace silence instead of avoiding it, you will discover its power. In solitude, you do not lose yourself. And from that meeting, both clarity and creativity arise, shaping a life that is truly your own. The most powerful minds in history have embraced aloneness. Throughout history, the most influential and extraordinary minds have shared one common trait. They valued and embraced aloneness. Whether they were scientists, philosophers, artists or spiritual leaders, solitude was not something they feared, it was something they sought. They understood that deep thinking, profound insights and groundbreaking ideas often emerge when the mind is free from distractions and external influences. In their solitude, they found wisdom, clarity and creativity that shaped the world. Great thinkers such as Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla and Isaac Newton all spent significant time in solitude. Einstein once said that he was a lone traveler, valuing the quiet moments where his most brilliant ideas were born. Tesla, one of history's most innovative inventors, often withdrew from social life to focus entirely on his work, stating that isolation was essential for a mind to become truly productive. Newton, during the Great Plague of 1665, isolated himself and in that period of solitude developed the theories of gravity and calculus. Artists and writers have also drawn power from aloneness. Leonardo da Vinci, known for his boundless curiosity, often spent hours in deep observation and reflection. Virginia Woolf, one of the most influential writers of the 20th century, famously wrote about the need for a room of one's own to create freely. Even Beethoven, who composed some of the most beautiful symphonies ever written, would retreat into complete isolation, walking alone for hours to find inspiration. For these individuals, solitude was not emptiness. It was a wellspring of genius. Beyond science and art, spiritual leaders and philosophers have always recognized the importance of being alone. The Buddha attained enlightenment after years of solitude and meditation. Jesus spent 40 days alone in the wilderness. The Prophet Muhammad received revelations in solitude. Within the cave of Hira, even Socrates, the great philosopher, often wandered alone in deep thought. These individuals did not seek constant validation or the company of the masses. Instead, they found strength, purpose, and wisdom in moments of deep aloneness. The lesson from these great minds is clear. Aloneness is not a weakness, but a source of immense power. It allows a person to develop independent thought, deepen self-awareness, and cultivate ideas that are not shaped by the noise of society. Those who fear being alone are often dependent on external stimulation, but those who embrace solitude discover an inner strength that cannot be shaken. The most powerful minds in history did not just endure aloneness, they thrived in it. Discomfort in solitude reveals areas within that need attention. Many people avoid solitude not because they dislike being alone, but because they dislike what surfaces when they are alone. The moment distractions are removed, unresolved emotions, deep-seated fears, and hidden insecurities rise to the surface. This discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong with solitude, it is a sign that something within requires attention. Just as physical pain alerts us to an injury, emotional discomfort in solitude points to inner wounds that have been ignored for too long. Most people spend their lives distracting themselves, constantly seeking entertainment, social interactions, or work to keep their minds occupied. They mistake busyness for purpose and external noise for inner peace. But when they are left alone, with no one to impress and no distractions to shield them, they come face to face with their true selves. The anxiety or restlessness they feel in solitude is not caused by solitude itself, but by the unresolved inner conflicts that solitude brings into awareness. Rather than avoiding this discomfort, one must learn to sit with it. Instead of reaching for a phone, turning on music, or seeking company, one should observe what arises in moments of silence. Are there feelings of self-doubt? Are there regrets from the past or fears about the future? Is there an underlying sadness that has been masked by distractions? These emotions do not emerge to harm. They emerge to be acknowledged, understood, and healed. Solitude is a mirror that reflects the true state of the mind and heart. If there is unrest within, it will become evident in moments of aloneness. But this is an opportunity, not a burden. When you recognize what needs healing, you can begin the process of self-discovery and transformation. Whether through meditation, journaling, or simple reflection, facing one's inner world with honesty allows for growth and emotional freedom. The most profound breakthroughs often come when a person stops running from themselves and instead turns inward with awareness. Those who learn to embrace solitude not only find peace, but also develop emotional resilience. Once you face and heal what discomfort reveals, solitude no longer feels threatening, it becomes a sanctuary. You no longer fear being alone because you are no longer afraid of yourself. The very discomfort that once made solitude unbearable transforms into a path toward clarity, self-acceptance, and inner strength. When you are alone, there is no need to pretend or wear masks. In the presence of others, people often feel the need to play roles. They adjust their behavior to fit social expectations, suppress certain emotions to appear strong, or change their opinions to avoid conflict. This constant need to present a version of oneself that is acceptable to society can be exhausting, but when you are alone, all these masks become unnecessary. There is no one to impress, no one to judge, and no need to pretend. you are free to be exactly as you are. Many people go through life wearing different masks for different situations. There is the professional mask, the social mask, the family mask, each shaped by the expectations of others. Over time, they become so accustomed to these roles that they forget who they truly are beneath them. They become disconnected from their own thoughts, emotions and desires. Solitude, however, provides a rare opportunity to drop all pretenses and reconnect with the most authentic version of oneself. When you are alone, you can express your emotions without fear of judgment. If you feel like laughing at something silly, you can. If sadness arises, you don't have to hide it behind a forced smile. You can sit with your thoughts without needing to explain or justify them. This freedom to be fully yourself is one of the greatest gifts of solitude. It allows you to explore your true nature without the pressure of external expectations. Solitude also creates space for self-reflection. Without the noise of other people's opinions, you can ask yourself important questions. What do I truly want? What makes me happy? What beliefs are truly mine and which have I adopted from others? These moments of deep introspection help you gain clarity about who you are and what matters most to you. The more time you spend in honest self-reflection, the more aligned your actions become with your true self. Those who are comfortable being alone develop a strong sense of identity. They no longer feel the need to constantly seek approval or conform to external pressures. When they do engage with the world, they do so authentically, without masks, without pretenses. Solitude, rather than being a state of isolation, becomes a foundation for genuine self-expression. And when a person knows who they are without the influence of others, they carry that confidence and authenticity into every aspect of life. Aloneness frees you from seeking approval and external distractions. Most people live in a constant state of seeking approval, validation, and distractions to keep themselves occupied. They shape their identities based on how others perceive them, measuring their worth through likes, compliments, and recognition. But the moment you embrace aloneness, you begin to break free from this cycle. You realize that you do not need approval to exist, nor do you need external noise to feel fulfilled. In solitude, you discover that your worth is not dependent on anyone else. It comes from within. The desire for approval is deeply ingrained in human behavior. From childhood, we are taught to seek praise from parents, teachers, and peers. Society conditions us to believe that being accepted is a measure of success. But this constant need for validation creates a fragile sense of self. When approval is given, we feel good. When it is taken away, we feel lost. Aloneness disrupts this pattern by forcing you to find value in yourself rather than in the opinions of others. The more comfortable you become in solitude, the less you crave external approval. In a world filled with distractions, solitude offers something rare: clarity. Without the noise of social interactions, notifications, and entertainment, your mind gains the space to think deeply and intentionally. Many people avoid being alone because they fear boredom, but boredom is simply the absence of distraction. When you sit in stillness, you begin to realize how much of your energy is spent reacting to external stimuli. Free from these distractions, you can redirect your focus toward meaningful self-exploration and personal growth. Aloneness also strengthens independence. When you stop relying on external validation, you become more self-sufficient. You no longer need people to tell you what to do, how to feel, or whether you are on the right path. Your decisions come from a place of inner knowing rather than external influence. This independence is a source of great power. It allows you to live authentically without constantly adjusting yourself to fit the expectations of others. The greatest liberation comes when you no longer need approval or distractions to feel whole. You are no longer controlled by the fear of judgment or the pressure to conform. Instead, you move through life with confidence, guided by your own truth. Aloneness, rather than being a burden, becomes a source of freedom. It frees you from the exhausting need to seek validation and allows you to build a life rooted in self-awareness, purpose, and inner peace. It is not isolation, but a space of self-discovery and transformation. Many people mistake aloneness for isolation. They assume that being alone means being lonely, disconnected, or withdrawn from life. But solitude is not about cutting yourself off from the world, it is about reconnecting with yourself. This is not a place of emptiness. It is a place of profound self-discovery and transformation. In solitude, you gain the opportunity to truly understand yourself. When you are constantly surrounded by people, their opinions, emotions and expectations shape your thoughts. But when you are alone, you begin to separate what is truly yours from what has been imposed upon you. You start to question, who am I without my roles and labels? What do I truly want beyond what others expect of me? These moments of deep reflection allow you to uncover your authentic self, perhaps for the first time. Transformation happens in silence. When you remove distractions and allow yourself to sit with your thoughts, emotions and fears, something shifts. You begin to see patterns in your thinking, recognize habits that no longer serve you, and uncover the deep-seated beliefs that shape your reality. The discomfort that sometimes arises in solitude is not a punishment, it is an invitation. It calls you to heal, to grow, and to let go of what no longer aligns with your true self. Throughout history, those who sought wisdom, enlightenment, and personal mastery have embraced solitude. Mystics, sages and great thinkers withdrew from society, not to escape it, but to better understand themselves and the world. Buddha found enlightenment in solitude. Great philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche wrote their deepest insights while alone. Even modern innovators, artists and leaders credit solitude as the space where their greatest ideas took form. This is because true transformation does not happen in noise. It happens in stillness. To embrace solitude is to embrace your own evolution. It is not isolation, it is a journey inward, a return to the essence of who you are. When you stop fearing aloneness and start using it as a tool for self-discovery, you gain clarity, purpose and strength. You no longer depend on the outside world to define you. Instead, you shape your own identity, and in doing so, you step into the most powerful version of yourself. If you can be at peace with yourself, nothing in the world can disturb you. True peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in an unshakable state of being. Many people believe that peace comes from controlling external conditions, having the right job, the right relationships, or the right environment, but the reality is, the external world is always changing. No matter how much you try to control it, challenges, conflicts and uncertainties will arise. If your peace is dependent on things outside of you, it will always be fragile. But when peace comes from within, nothing in the world can disturb you. Being at peace with yourself means that your mind is not in constant conflict. It means you are not haunted by regrets from the past, nor are you consumed by anxiety about the future. You accept yourself fully, the strengths, the weaknesses, the victories and the mistakes. When you no longer battle with yourself, the battles of the external world lose their power over you. Even in chaos, you remain centered. Even in uncertainty, you remain calm. This inner stillness becomes your greatest shield. Many people seek peace in others, believing that the right relationship or social circle will bring them happiness. But if you are not at peace with yourself, no external relationship can fill that void. You will either depend on others for emotional stability or become easily disturbed by their actions. But when you are comfortable in your own presence, you no longer rely on anyone else to complete you. You engage with people not out of need, but out of choice, and this makes your relationships healthier and more meaningful. Challenges and difficulties are inevitable in life. There will be moments of loss, disappointment and failure. But when your peace is internal, you do not collapse under pressure. You understand that problems are temporary and you respond with wisdom rather than react with fear. The world may throw storms your way, but if your foundation is strong, you will not be shaken. Like a deep ocean that remains still beneath the waves, your inner peace remains untouched by surface disturbances. The greatest power in the world is the ability to remain undisturbed no matter what happens around you. This is not indifference, it is mastery. It means you do not allow external situations to dictate your inner state. When you reach this level of peace, you become truly free. The world may change, people may come and go, circumstances may rise and fall, but within you there is only stillness. And in that stillness there is absolute strength. Ending the power of embracing aloneness. Aloneness is not a weakness. It is the doorway to the deepest strength within you. When you stop fearing solitude and start using it as a tool for self-discovery, you step into a space where clarity, creativity, and inner peace flourish. The world may try to convince you that being alone is something to avoid, but history has shown that the most powerful minds, the greatest thinkers, and the most enlightened souls have all embraced it. True power is not found in external validation, distractions, or the presence of others. It is found in your ability to be at peace with yourself. When you no longer seek approval, when you are no longer controlled by the noise of the world, you become free. Free to think deeply, to create without limits, to walk your own path without hesitation. So, if you find yourself alone, do not see it as a void, see it as a gift, a space to grow, to reflect, and to understand yourself in ways that would be impossible amidst constant distractions. The greatest transformation happens in stillness, and when you embrace that stillness, nothing in the world can disturb you. The journey inward is the most important journey you will ever take. And once you have mastered the art of being alone, you will never feel lonely again. Instead, you will discover that within you lies an entire universe, one that is vast, limitless, and full of power.